if you want to make money, this is not the place for you.
Have these people with disabilities understood what the LGBTQ community is?
Every person who we say has a disability, they manage their emotions beautifully.
It's challenging, right? Mentally, even for you.
What's not challenging? Simple things make them happy.
Do you ever doubt your work because profit is so slow?
This industry is something that people don't really want to get into.
Do you really make money? Hi everyone, welcome to the FoundHers Podcast. Today with me, I have a guest who's not only changing lives around India, but also creating a space for herself in the social entrepreneurship world. I'm sure we've all heard this saying that you can't make money and still create an impact, but I guess today's episode is going to change that myth. Today with me, I have Beverly. Hi Beverly, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. So let's start with a quick introduction as to what it is that you do.
I run a nonprofit called MUN. Me and 3 other co-founders, we've been doing it for the past 15 years now.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose is to train adults with intellectual disabilities, autism, and other disabilities as well.
Right.
And help them find a job and find purpose in their own lives. And of course, I also run Section 8 company that's called Karman. It started just 3 years ago. It's a brand that kind of upcycles fabric that's going to waste. And for those who can't find jobs in the mainstream, they're the ones who get trained in manufacturing and production-related skills, and they get placed in Karman.
Wow, that's very interesting because you are not only creating a livelihood or a business for yourself, but you're also doing it for people who cannot go ahead and get a normal job. How were you able to identify that these individuals can actually put in time to work, can actually help, be it on the fabric end, be it on the hiring front, or working at different places? We read your website and we saw that there was people who've been hired and are working at Lemon Tree Hotel, PVR, INOX. These are very challenging front-facing jobs. So how have you got your individuals to be prepared and ready for the real world?
When we started, again, like any other person who's a special educator, we were trained that a future of the people with disabilities is typically in some kind of a sheltered workshop environment where they're making some art-related products, or home utility items. And just like everyone else, we were also trained the same, and we thought, okay, let's do that because that's the future for a person with a disability. So that's what we did. We started training them in art-related skills. And when we started, we were just 3 of us who were the educators and, managing the organization. And then 3 of our students, actually 4 of our students, started to imitate us and help out with the most severe challenging students in the classroom. And they started helping out. They started using the same dialogues that we were using, and they were successful at training people who we found challenging to train. And at one lunchtime conversation, Dilshad, Gitanjali, my co-founders, and myself just spoke about, look at these guys. We haven't asked them for help. We haven't trained them. But look how well they are, literally teacher assistants. At the time, we found it difficult to actually hire staff. So we said, okay, let's figure a way to, employ these guys. That way it's a win-win for both of us.
Yeah.
We don't have to, hire people we really can't afford. And we give these people an opportunity who are actually helping us out.
Right.
So we gave 4 of them their first job as teacher assistants. I think from there, that was what taught us that actually giving them purpose and valuing them for their contributions is the key to eventually make them more employable.
Right. Moving on to Karman that you're creating, right? It is a product-based business, right? That's what it's going to kind of get into. That's the industry it's going to get into. How are you pricing your products? when it comes to a product which is created with a social cause or that is supporting a social cause?
So we have a whole model, like a pricing model based on which we kind of assess the amount of labor, the amount of time that it takes, and of course the raw materials like anyone else would. There's no, special price considering that it's made by a person with a disability. But I would say what we are trying to do is make it very accessible to most people, because when we talk about upcycling or using fabric that's typically going to waste and ending up in a landfill, for example, we want that to be something that everyone can access and not like a luxury premium product. Because at the same time, we want people to be kinder to the environment, but then we make products that are exorbitant and they can't afford. Then how are more people going to access that?
Isn't it challenging to have a very business-like business to be running that as one venture of yours and the other venture is completely people and impact driven? How do you kind of switch your two roles as a founder?
What's not challenging? Please tell me that. But yes, it is of course challenging. But I think what we do is work on managing our time in a way that when we're focusing on Karman and Karman related work, there are days that are just dedicated to that, where we deep dive and get things done there, and then switch to the MUN role and then get things done there. And at MUN, we have a very big team. I mean, we've been in existence for 15 years now. We have over 100 people.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, there's a lot happening there. And then we have Karman, which is a fairly smaller team, a younger organization. So, of course, it does need a little bit of attention at this moment.
Getting to the real gist of having a business, you've been doing this for like 20 years of your life. I'm sure you've asked this question. You've been asked this question. Do you really make money? What's your go-to answer?
I make enough money.
Yeah.
I mean, enough for me to have a decent life. Not a luxurious life for sure.
Yeah.
But again, that puts things into perspective for me all the time. Like, do I even need that luxurious life? So, yeah.
And how has it been making that choice of, do you ever doubt your work because profit is so slow?
Never.
What keeps you going?
I think the students, their smiles. And for me, profit is being able to place someone in a job. And then, finally hearing that he's able to buy his own house. Or, when they come back and tell us that, okay, they've saved so much money and they want to, take their parents on a holiday. Someone who's never been out of the city. And like they come back and tell us, my parents have never been to Goa and I just want to take them to Goa. Imagine living 18 years of your life. Parents have lived, I don't know for how many years, and they've never had a holiday. Never gone to Goa. And then the only thing that this person intends to do once he gets a job is to take his parents to Goa.
Oh, cute.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's profit.
Yeah. It is profit in the heart, in a much larger sense than just money. Has it been easy to get people to, join you and actually help you grow it?
Not really in the beginning, of course, because like I mentioned earlier, that this industry is something that people don't really want to get into because it's not a profit-making industry. And just like me also, it was not my intention. And I think everyone's aware of that. Like when I went for my first interview, the first thing the lady told me was, if you want to make money, this is not the place for you. So, it was it's commonly discussed that, okay, if you want to take a role in the social sector, you forget about making money. So I think that's why people kind of refrain from it. How we tackle it is that we ensure that our employees and our entire team gets paid what they would get paid if they would be hired by a corporate for that role. So we kind of look at that and because everyone has a life, everyone needs to, and the work is 100 times more than what it would be in any other sector. It's very, very tough.
It's challenging, right? Mentally, even for you to put through every day and still show up with that. How did you convince your first big corporate to accept people with disabilities?
It was a long journey. I mean, And we had to be patient and persistent at the same time. Also, in the beginning, when we started, it was, we were very naive. We went into corporates or people who own restaurants and, went to them telling them that it is their responsibility to employ a person with a disability. Not realizing that people didn't know too much, and they came from a space that they didn't want to risk their business and they had fear of what would happen to this individual, and then of course that would impact their business. So what we did was then, of course, took a few steps back, said, okay, we need to figure out a way to set them up for success and not just go to people and, say it's your responsibility. And we figure out how to do it. So then studied, actually, are there even courses for people with disabilities to learn and build their careers, and realized that there were, but it was only for either people with hearing impairment or people with visual impairment or sometimes with a physical disability whose intellectual capacity is, just at a above average level or at an average level. So that's when we decided to go to the corporate and said, okay, don't employ, but just allow us to come in and learn from you what the industry standards and expectations are. So that's what we did. We went in, our teams went in, spent months in the either a hotel or the office and tried to study each and every role, and under the various department heads, almost shadowed them for a while, and then came back, then used our expertise to build a curriculum around that, and then teach the person with the disability. Then from there, once they completed the course and they learned what were the expectations, then the transition to the workplace became much easier and smoother. And of course, when we started, the on-job training period was much longer. And then as we move along, we keep realizing what are the things that we need to add. And I think having that learner's mindset is very, very important to anything in life.
Wow, you've really put in a lot of effort to adapt the organization to them, because it's not easy. And being somebody who's building a commercial organization, I struggle with just having my own team stay up to date, stay upskilled, stay motivated. How accepting are the other people when you have people with disabilities join their organizations?
The acceptance comes at two ends. There are people who almost look at it with a lens of pity. So they feel really bad for it. It comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of care. But your feeling bad for someone is not going to allow you to treat that person equally or like that person wants to be treated. Right? And that kind of almost becomes like an obstacle to allow you to do that. Or then the other end is that there are people who kind of use that vulnerability in them because, they will always say yes and they will always do everything. So, people tend to get work done. So you have to have a balance between how you train this person to deal with all kinds of people and to identify who is a person who's probably taking advantage and who isn't. And that's very difficult for the person because they haven't had access to, or they haven't had too many people outside of their families who accept them.
Coming to a little bit about their pay, do they get paid equally, or it is more subsidized?
No, not at all.
Right,
Not at all subsidized. They get paid equally. And I think now the employer wants to pay them equally.
Okay. After they see the growth?
After they see what they can do. After they see, once they do the interview itself, the employer, is very clear that this person will get paid like everybody else because he's working like everybody else. He's working the same amount of hours as everyone else. So, why should there be a subsidy?
That's good. That's good. That's
it
very
is amazing. It is amazing, honestly, because, having that and then having them, and because they are very skilled, and once they join, they are very settled in the organization.
Yeah.
What every employer comes back and tells us is that, they always focused on cost benefits and, productivity. And just after this person has joined their organization, um, they've seen how everyone else in the office is so much more happier, and it directly impacts productivity.
Let's talk a little bit about which are these industries that are accepting people with disabilities. We just read about, Pranav Bakshi walking the Lakme Fashion Week as a model, and that was obviously a great in the fashion industry. We've also seen a lot of people with Down syndrome and autism also walk ramps for many famous designers. So what are these other industries where you see people with disabilities as a great fit, and what is the industries that have been working for months?
The most recent would be the banking sector.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing how, they've opened up various roles that can be done. And in fact, they're roles that are process driven, they're challenging, they require attention to detail. And, the graduates who have been placed there are performing exceptionally. I think another would be the hospitality industry.
Right.
The entire hospitality, food and beverage has so many roles and opportunities that can be done, and the industry is so much more open and accepting of hiring people with disabilities.
Nice. We've been seeing, obviously, the new generation. Everybody's talking about the Gen Z. How has the youth been adapting themselves to this sector? Do you see a lot of them participating or even having an intent to help social businesses?
A lot.
Yeah.
I think, and I just feel that they are so much more open, more sensitive, and they're very eager to give their time. Because also they're so super skilled at, so many things that take us longer to do. Say, for example, anything related to tech. It takes them a few hours and it probably would take us days to, figure it out. But they come in and they help us do so much. And we have, again, partnerships with many colleges.
Yeah.
So, as a part of their entire college work that they're supposed to do, it becomes sort of a mandate for them to do that. But what I like about them is that while they come in with that mindset that, it is a mandate, I think once they have the experience of engaging with the beneficiaries, it becomes more of a relationship and a friendship that outlasts that whole, just that social work period that they have.
That's what I thought, right? Like, because social work and social service hours started coming as a part of the curriculum, it was a little bit more like forcing them to do it, and people just do it for the grade. So that's what I want to know. Like, people, do they only do it for the grade, or do they do it for maybe a little bit longer?
I think even if they do it for the grade,
Yeah.
it's fine. I mean, it's okay. It's not much for us to, give them a certificate and tell them that, you've done a great job and actually help the organization. And we are glad to write a recommendation letter for you to help you, go ahead in your career. And I think that whole thing becomes, because the attitude with which we accept them and, we kind of tell them that it's okay for you to, take this back. I think that allows them to be more comfortable and come back to us even once they are, in their colleges and they're doing their further studies. They always come back to us and say, hey, I thought of you all, I want to do this project. And then even once they get their jobs, they still come back.
Yeah. Wow, that's really nice. In India, for the longest time, social causes and social service has been sold on misery. Do you feel like we're guilt tripping people to feeling this pity?
I think, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of places do that. And honestly, I think probably that's almost, that's how it sells.
Yes.
Sad to say, but I think Bollywood also kind of does that.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I mean, that's the whole thing, like you need to show that drama and you need to show that emotion. But, what people don't realize that does is that kind of just highlights all the negative aspects, and then no one looks at what the positives are.
Yeah.
No one's looking at the fact that they can do so much. They can do so many things even better than any of us can.
Right.
They are so honest and, so warm, and I
Yeah.
don't know anyone with the intellectual ability who can be like that.
No, definitely. I agree. I remember going to Aadhaar, the NGO that my dad runs, and there was this one individual. He was about 80 and he beat my graphic designer on at chess.
Yeah.
And straight up, like checkmate. There was no going back, and we were just shocked. And I was like, "Wow, how have you done this? You probably like, and their IQ levels are really low, so they're probably not even like they're doing very bare minimum work at the workshops, but." That's where I learned about this world of people with disabilities and the hidden talents that they have. And like you said, of course, misery sells. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the human emotion that I'm trying to tap into, right? In order to get people to watch my content or get with the cause. But you've been promoting Man with happy faces. And do you think that still works? Have you seen any shift in terms of the way people view social causes and contributing to social causes in today's day and age?
Definitely. I mean, I think that the misery route is something that we will never do.
Yeah.
Because it is important that people see them as equals. So that's always what we would promote. And, and it's true. Why should we always talk about their disability first when there are so many interesting things to talk about? And we can always, say, of course, and this person happens to have a disability as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not like the pitching.
first thing,
Yeah, it's not the first
never
thing.
the first thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about donations, right? In India, we know that there are a lot of scams that happen with NGOs and with donors, and I don't think either are to blame. It's both sides, right? I still think there is still a huge chunk of audience that finds it difficult to just trust the work that's being shown online because they don't know what to believe. So, have you faced any such instances where you've had a situation of any hoax happening, and how have you as a founder taken that, because you are doing something good?
At the end of the day, it's about the work that you're doing. And I think if you actually show the person who's intending to donate, the work and the impact, that's when, they know that you're actually doing it. So for us, that's always been about the experience. We encourage everyone, more than money, first is to donate your time. So once you donate your time, you come in, you build that relationship, you have that experience, and then that's a choice you make eventually at the end of the day, whether you want to support the cause further, if you are connected to it or not. So,
Nice.
yeah.
That's interesting because you let them kind of also understand what is that world that they don't see. Let's talk a little bit about scaling, because you mentioned a very key factor that people know when they get into this industry, that money is not the primary sort of a goal for the business. But I'm sure with Karman, you're looking to scale it into a business in order to help create some sort of a profitability factor, right? Because that's what a social venture is all about. So what is your plan to scale? How are you planning to scale this into a business by keeping the core, that is the impact, within the business?
I think what we are doing is partnering with existing organizations who, like us, had the same challenges.
Okay.
So firstly, why we started Karman was because, we had a lot of success with placing people in the mainstream, like in hotels, restaurants, banks, etc. And then soon realized that there was a group of people who are more on the severe end of the spectrum, who unfortunately required more support. Their disability demanded more support. And unfortunately, the mainstream society was not set up yet to provide that support to them. So that's why we said, what, let's figure out what they can do and how we can get them to do it without having them to, actually physically go to work, because some of them even have challenges, accessibility challenges, and they are unable to, and then always being dependent on their parents who are senior citizens to pick and drop them in Bombay. That's dug up. It was like so difficult for me to come, so I can imagine how difficult it is for them. So, like kind of thinking of that space, we said, let's start something, and let's start something that they are really good at doing. And they were very good at, doing stuff with their hands, any kind of art related work. So we taught them patchwork, applique, started off with that and embroidery, and then got into the sewing machine. And then from there it was, let's kind of patch different fabrics up together, and then upcycling came into play.
Nice.
And now we are just like literally collecting kilos and kilos of fabric and upcycling them on a daily basis. And corporates are, opting for, providing gifts to their clients, which is using the fabric that they themselves have donated. So we have like this whole denim donation drive that we do, where everyone brings their old pair of jeans, and then our artisans show them how to kind of cut them up and make like a bag or make something that they can take back home with them.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. Moving on to one part, I saw on your website a pride collection.
Yeah.
How did you bring that in? India's still adjusting to pride. Indian families are still not there yet. Let me just put it that way. And you released a pride collection. Have these people with disabilities understood what the LGBTQ community is? What is pride all about?
Maybe not to, again, I wouldn't know about whether they understand again what is pride, and honestly, what is pride?
Yeah.
For us, we understand pride in a way that's not actually the preference of an individual. It's treating people equally, treating people with respect, treating people with dignity. And that's what's important to us. So if the colors of the rainbow represent that, and we love colors and we love the rainbow, so why not have something that's dedicated to the community that's also marginalized, just like people with disabilities. So I think we kind of relate there, because we have the same challenges that the community, the LGBTQIA plus community has.
So. Yeah, I think the main thing that obviously aligns with both the communities is inclusivity, right?
Yes.
It's tough to get inclusivity in our country. How has inclusivity changed in the last 4 to 5 years in our country?
I think one big change was the corporates adopting this whole DEI policies. Having those in place allowed them to kind of say, okay, no, it's a mandate. We have to employ people who come from marginalized backgrounds and ensure that, we have a place for them in the organization. And I think that grew leaps and bounds. Employment opportunities grew leaps after that.
There are, of course, a million myths out there about having a social business. What is this one myth that you really want to bust because you yourself have experienced it?
I think that it's a business at the end of the day. It's a business, and I feel like having a social element to it is, of course, great. But everyone eventually looks at it like a business. I think that's what, with most of our mentors, I think every time we learn from them that, you just because you're getting people with disabilities to make products that are upcycled doesn't mean that you're not a business. You still have to look at yourself like a business. So I think keeping the business aspect first, and then of course all the other things.
We don't still see a lot of founders come here. If I were to just tell you one motivational thing that you want to leave this episode with, which everybody can take back, right? And actually maybe rethink and be like, hey, let me take up a cause and actually help that cause, because we have so many causes in our own country that we need to kind of solve. And, poverty being a very, very big spectrum, which you don't see many people even look at. If they look at the venture, it always takes a different toll. So if I were to ask you to give one message that could motivate all our listeners here to maybe start a business with a social impact, at the backside or at some level.
Everyone has something that they are passionate about. So, take that one thing that you're passionate about and do something small every single day towards that. It could be sharing that passion with somebody who does not have access to it. Or it could be like if it's a passion of actually making a change, doing something small every day that's leading to changing that. And then those small steps actually make a very big difference. A lot of people, tell us that we don't have time. We don't have time to volunteer. We don't have time to do this. But, even if you spend 10 minutes each day, that's our volunteers come in and tell us that we don't have time. We say, even if you have 10 minutes, to have a conversation with someone on a virtual call, you're still teaching them so much through that 10 minutes. And those 10 minutes every day lead to impactful change. So take those small steps.
Nice.
I would be.
Thank you. I think my biggest takeaway from this entire episode has been that as a founder, you put so much pressure on yourself to stay right ahead in the business world, to, put your name out there in the lights. But these are these core grounding aspects of life that really make you who you are as an individual. And when you keep that as your priority, I feel like money and fame will just come to you. And that's just what I took away from this episode. So thank you so much for taking this time out. It was lovely knowing more about this space. And I hope we see a lot more entrepreneurs come into the social sector of our country.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely talking to you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode about social entrepreneurship and the impact it can create. Please like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.